The airport fire rescue team is required by law to reach the scene in under 3 minutes. But that's no problem with these specialized crash trucks, which can travel at up to 80 miles per hour. They bring water and foam to a stricken aircraft in seconds. Each truck carries over 3,000 gallons of water and 420 gallons of foam. The turrets can pump out their entire load in less than 4 minutes.
Without all this equipment coming with all of the water and all of the foam that they carry, without that, we might as well not be here. That's the most important thing on this airport.
Dennis Jaworski is a dedicated trucker who has become fascinated by the history of trucks. He's built up a collection of over 200 classic vehicles that span almost a century of truck building.
As a young boy, 12, 14 years old, my brother and I started collecting old cars. Then in the early 60s, we realized no one was doing anything about the old trucks, so we started a collection of old trucks.
Dennis's family has been in the trucking business for over 2 generations. Since then, Dennis has spent most of his time restoring trucks and rescuing them from a rusty grave.
Some really need a lot of love when we get them. It usually would take about a year to totally restore a truck. You can buy them restored cheaper than doing it yourself. A lot of people tell me you must love old trucks. I say, no, I love my wife and children. I like old trucks.
The very first trucks were used only for local deliveries inside the city because they weren't powerful or tough enough for the rough country roads. The first truck was built by the Daimler Company in Germany in 1896. A few years later, the American truck building industry was established. But it wasn't until World War I that the truck really proved its worth. This 1917 Packard is the oldest truck in Dennis Jaworski's collection. It has the original solid rubber tires. Inflatable pneumatic tires, which gave a much more comfortable ride, weren't invented until 1 year later. Dennis prefers driving his 1953 LTL, which he has restored to its original glory.
It's a West Coast truck, a lot more fancy than what we have on the East Coast here. I guess they had a lot higher taste out there than us New Englanders had.
But Dennis's favorite is this chain-drive Mack FK, built in 1932.
At the time, chain-drive trucks, open cab was going out, but Mack still made these trucks for the die-hard New England contractor that wouldn't give up chain drive and open cab. So that tells you quite a lot about a New Englander. The average thing to do today is when you're done with something, cut it up, scrap it, junk it. These trucks built American.
Parrish has been #1 in the World Championships 5 times in the last 7 years, and he's used to the rough and tumble of the racetrack. Keeping all that power in check means that there's a tremendous buildup of heat in the disc brakes. So water is sprayed directly onto the discs to stop them from overheating. After half an hour's racing, there was only 20 seconds between the finishing time of the first and the last truck. In this qualifying race, Steve has come in 5th, which places him 5th in line for today's final. After each race, the truck is weighed. There's a minimum weight limit of 5 tons to prevent the trucks from being rebuilt with lighter, more expensive metals. Information from each run is downloaded onto a computer. From this, the team can analyze the engine temperature and pressure, the G-forces, the suspension, and of course, Steve's performance around the corners. The teams are given 1 hour to prepare the trucks for the final. Driving such a huge piece of machinery around a racetrack requires particular skill, especially when there is so little space to overtake. Steve credits his racing success to his smooth driving technique.
I call it tiptoeing my way round, because if you grab hold of it and start heaving it around, you go nowhere, because there is so much inertia. The tyres get overheated, the brakes get overheated. You really have to be very careful with it. They don't look like they should be going as fast as they are, and it's a 5-ton vehicle that's doing 100 miles an hour sideways through a corner with smoke off the tyres. It's very, very spectacular.
Unusually for Steve Parrish, this race has been a disaster. He suffered some serious damage to the truck and fallen back to 6th place.
I'm an ordinary
is the chassis bump roll test, which simulates driving down a road at 10 miles per hour, hitting potholes on each alternate wheel. The test lasts 50 hours and is a serious challenge to anything mounted onto the chassis. This simulator uses hydraulics to test the driver's cab. It's controlled by a computer and recreates the vibrations of average cruising speed. This bump machine simulates the vertical impact that a truck can experience off-road. And in this controlled environmental chamber, they can take the temperature from minus 20 degrees to 110 degrees Fahrenheit and vary the airspeed from 0 to 60 miles per hour. They can simulate anything from the frozen Arctic to the driest desert and test the truck's air conditioning and heating systems in the most hostile conditions. Noise and vibration tests are performed in an echo-free sound chamber. Here they can analyze and then improve the design of the vehicle, and also identify any sources of audible noise which could create driver fatigue.
He spends many hours in the vehicle. If you put him in a position where he isn't comfortable, he fatigues earlier. So we have to design a truck that, rides good, handles good. The controls are at a good location for him where he's not straining himself throughout the operation of the vehicle.
Finally, the complete truck is put through its paces on the test track. Truck manufacturers are also required to build trucks that stand up to the strictest safety standards. Driver safety is always critical on the road. It's even more so on the racetrack.